Hey, thanks for being here. I know I'm the last person between you and your drinks, and you and sleep, so we'll try to keep this a little bit lively. Finding your use case with augmented reality, I wanted to talk about this because we're finding that a lot of our customers get into their proof of concepts and they don't really have a good idea necessarily of why. And they don't have their use case defined. So we started looking at this really to start helping our customers become more successful. And we talked about augmented reality, we've talked about Internet of Things. Do I have a clicker? I don't have a clicker. That's probably the clicker. So PTC at a glance, that's our logo obviously, but we've got 30 years of digital twin innovation. We started off with AutoCAD, with Creo. Windchill is a product lifecycle management, but then we made another $1 billion of investment to get into Internet of Things, to augmented reality. Some of that was our own development, some of it was, as we mentioned, acquisitions. So this is where we are, and we are looking at connecting the physical and the digital world. So IoT is about getting data from the physical world into the digital, and augmented reality is about getting data from the digital world into the physical. So that's kind of our strategy in a nice yin-yang nutshell. And the way we're doing that right now is we've got the world's most widely adopted augmented reality technology. So we did that first by the acquisition of Euphoria. They've got some 75% of the apps in the iOS App Store, so that's a fairly significant proportion. And then we built on top of that Thingworks Studio, which is really about rapid augmented reality development, codeless, for really the industrial, the enterprise space. But where are we now in augmented reality? It's really perceived as early stages. Okay, it is. Why do you use it? And I had an interesting conversation earlier today when there was the question why, and in about 3 minutes we found around 15 different places where it would add value. There's also perception it requires significant upfront investment, and really honestly our tools are addressing exactly that problem. And then where's the ROI? So let's talk about that. I have a colleague doing the lengthy time to value portion of this presentation in Europe right now, but we're addressing the right side as well. So how do we get from cool to valuable? The answer is that we start with value and not technology and not even use case. So where is the real business value? Why are we doing this in the first place? And it's so easy, especially those of you who are in innovation departments, how might we use augmented reality? And we've heard several people today talk about you shouldn't start there, and I agree, but the reality is we actually do tend to start with the technology. So this presentation is about helping you find where it might be useful in your organization. I did take this set of chevrons, minus the typo, from the ARIA Technical Report for User Experience Design in Enterprise Augmented Reality. If you're not members of ARIA, you might want to be. We are. But this process from a UX perspective is really the way you want to go. When we move that into the real world, when is it valuable? And we've identified around 5 patterns to look for in your organization. Do you have a place where you need to reveal the invisible or obscure? And there's a lot of places where this pattern might show up. Is there a fault in this aisle? You're looking down the aisle. Is this the aisle I need to go down to go fix a fault? What bin do I need to pick this order from? And I know these are real use cases because I talked to at least 2 different people today who have these 2 problems. What parts does this order specify? We've worked with folks who are in job shops where they need to know what exact parts for this order just to get it just right. Lots of people also in the airplane space or any sort of highly complex assembly may want to use augmented reality to make sure they're putting the right parts in the right orientation. Which equipment is damaged or is this equipment built to spec? It's kind of the flip side of that. But more mundane. Does marketing like this design? Is this even the right design in the first place? Is this right? That's super simple use case. Have you ever had like that person over in marketing who didn't know if that was like the right approach? Augmented reality helps with that. Will it fit in my work environment? We've got, so we've listened to people talk about using augmented reality to envision factory layout options. What's my flight path? This is the oldest augmented reality. Actually, my mother used to work in heads-up displays for fighter jets, so I've been aware of augmented reality since the 1980s, and obviously I was not in this field in the 1980s. So there's been a lot of reveal the invisible or obscure. Does that one resonate with anybody in here? You've seen that pattern somewhere in your space? Anyone? Just me? Okay, just me. Next one, situational awareness. My favorite one for this is a warehouse forklift driver. Who is coming from behind that rack who's about to step into the path of that forklift? That'd be really fantastic information to know before that person steps out. So the ability to like see around corners. Yes, there's flashy red lights right now, but there's a lot of flashy red lights. What's the path to my destination? Where am I going right now? You can do this in warehouse picking, how do I get to my path? My favorite on that one is a firefighter navigating a building where they've pulled the map of the building from information systems, and they're going through smoke, being able to see around corners about where the walls are supposed to be. That's my favorite use case. I've not seen it in practice yet, but it is something that we could be doing in the near future. What other tasks need attention right here? Like, I'm working on this thing right in front of me. But if I just also worked on this thing over here, I could reduce travel time, even though this one's not on my to-do list next, and I won't even necessarily be aware of it. On the production line, being able to know what's happening either upstream or downstream from me and how that might affect my work. Maybe I can adjust my work based on an increase of defect rates happening downline. So there's some really interesting things to drive value in just situational awareness. A lot of these on this list really want wearables, but others don't. But the previous one could be really even a phone. So you can get started with a lot of these right now. And with others, you have to wait a little while, but you can get the content created. Enhanced learning is where we're seeing a lot of value, and that's training comprehension. So I've got some statistics later on how much better, at least for one study, people learned when they had an augmented reality version of their training versus just a standard video, which is huge. But reduced training time, that's great. But why do I even have to have this training in the first place? If this is a task that is not time sensitive, maybe I could just have just in time how to do it. Distributing expertise across the organization, remote expertise. So all of these enhanced learnings are just a huge pattern to look for, and you might find it many different places across the organization. Envisioning alternatives. How does this design variation affect the overall result? So if I change this to this alternate part, what does it look like as a whole? Would this equipment fit? One of the big places to look for this pattern is in sales or in design. If I'm going to do, if I can't take all of my forklifts to the customer, I probably can't take any of the forklifts to the customer, but I can't have all the forklifts that are possible right here, but I could have one and then use augmented reality to show all the different variations. So that's a really, you just completely multiplied out your little sales case to get there. So lots of places where envisioning the alternatives would be valuable. So those patterns, yep, plus the last one, know what to do, which is connected to enhanced learning. But how do I do this? Which procedure should be used? Think about that for a second. If you have a manual, digital or physical, you have to know where to look in the manual to know what to do. But with augmented reality and object recognition, you can say, not only here's how to do it, but this is the procedure that's relevant right now. So just huge error reduction just in that first word, which. Now, there's other ways to do all of these things. And what this first of all, this is your take-home slide, so there you go. But second, so for those of you who are just brains full, just take a picture of this one. The AR strengths are, compared to what we consider, or when I try to figure this out, the next best alternative. So revealing the invisible or obscure, you could have a lot of different alternatives to try to accomplish that. That one's actually pretty hard. But this is just in time. This is in the context that you're working. This has a lower cognitive load. There's less task switching. So you're going to have fewer, because of those things, you're going to have fewer errors. So that's the fundamental AR benefit. So we all know there's lots of different ways to do these things. So the result is increased speed, better quality, better understanding. And you can go through, there's a lot of context in this column. So I can actually just summarize my presentation. AR is about putting the information in context. Okay, so there's your take home. So finding your use case, you've got these patterns to look for. And remember we said we needed to find the value first, the business value first, and then find the use case that's connected to that. So those business values, you might find those in marketing, you might find those in sales, you might find those in operations, you could definitely find those in delivery. US Postal Service earlier today talked about needing to know how to deliver to a specific building, and as a person who's lived in 2 different places where you had to know the information to be able to get the mail there, I really appreciate institutional knowledge, because that way I get my mail. So once you find these things, you find these values, where you find what that's costing you. Talked to somebody else today where a specific type of error was costing $20,000 per instance, with hundreds of opportunities for that error per day. Okay, that's a business value. That's a value driver. And if AR could solve that, well, it was highly contextual. It needed to be just in time. All right, we've got is it any of the use cases that you hear anybody talk about? No, it's not. And I'm not going to share it because that's not fair. But it is not a use case the way you hear, honestly, us, we will talk about, our sales guys will come in and sell you common use cases. This is how you find the value to find the use case. So find those values, then explore the problem. You're going to find related problems nearby. And it didn't take very long talking to the $20,000 per error before we added another 30% incremental value just by adjusting how they thought about the problem. So that's what I've done today. And so now you get your whole, here's why you're doing it. So now that you've identified the value, full value, you can define the use cases from there. Oh, this is going to be a marketing use case. For this use case, now it makes sense to use a HoloLens, or instead it makes sense to use Google Glass, whatever the wearable of choice that makes sense right now, but you can build your value for the future. Don't start with the device, start with the business value. Don't even start with the content creation platform, as much as I'd like you to do that. Start with your business value. Where we're seeing it used today more than anything else is in taking those service manuals and putting them into augmented reality, work instructions for manufacturing, and then the virtual product demonstrations. So super straightforward. And those fit across a lot of the verticals that if we look in. So these are places where you might find your special value proposition. And we've talked about the 3 that are bolded. I'm going to pause right here and do a plug. Next week, the Harvard Business Review is releasing an issue where, for the very first time, they are talking about augmented reality. It's going to be in print and on newsstands on the 24th. And that is co-authored by the PTC CEO, Jim Heppelman, and Harvard Business School professor, Michael Porter. And it is why your business needs an augmented reality strategy. And obviously, we couldn't agree more. And everything I've talked about so far is really thinking about your AR strategy. So you might find your value in manufacturing. Boeing is finding 90% better quality and 30% faster efficiency. Fujitsu is getting improved sales revenue. Caterpillar is getting decreased cost for service. The value is real. In the training side, Boeing did, for their first time wing assembly, 30% faster simulated wing assembly. This is just astounding solutions. 47% faster comprehension of training instructions. 34% faster wiring. So those training use cases really are valuable, and here's some of the results that we're seeing. The pick list, 46% faster completion of pick list with augmented reality. Now, we can build for Thingworks most of these types of use cases, and these 3 videos that are playing are recordings of augmented reality for 3 different of our use cases. So we got the operator and work instructions for a Caterpillar. We pull up the model of the generator set on the top left. We're walking in with the HoloLens, and now you're seeing things highlighted for what you need to do next. The service manual, we've got a little we put together a fake pump, and we loaded up the CAD models, and you're seeing just-in-time service instructions. You're seeing the model exploding out. So you turn the yellow wheel, go to the next one. Now I need to pull that handle just 90 degrees. So these are the sorts of things that you can build right now without code. No code. We do that in HoloLens, phones, Android, iOS, Surface, and more platforms in the pipeline. So whatever you're thinking about using, we'll be able to support it soon enough. So Studio authors and publishes experience, and then the View app accesses the experience, and we do now have, I've talked to a lot of people today, we do now have on-premise options, so if you can't handle cloud hosting in your environment, you can manage that. And this allows faster AR authoring. It's really, unlike a lot of solutions you find out there, geared for 3D from the get-go, because of our long history in working on the digital side. And it allows you to start doing real-time insights. We can connect anything, you can put gauges up in your augmented reality experience that connect to your IoT data, your Industry 4.0 data. This is how you visualize it. This is not just static information. So the more that you do your digital transformation, the more that we can help you, visualize it, make it come to life. In fact, so much so that we are rebranding Thingworks, not rebranding, we're re-describing Thingworks as not your IoT platform, because we live on top of IoT platforms like Amazon Web Services, IoT. We are your digital innovation platform. So this, as part of Thingworks, is the suite of tools to help you move as you forward in your transformations. Shortens time to value. So if you go visit us, you can see models being created. You can see some of the demos. Yeah. So this demo is actually we're in the hall right now. And there is, as our little final point, a free trial. You can start right now, and for 90 days, joining 5,000 plus other participants in figuring out how you can use ThingWorks Studio in your company. But please find your business value first. Okay.
There's a lot of value in the suite of tools and connecting all the tools. Barbara was just teasing there's one more before the drinks. But we have a minute or two for questions. So do we have some questions? How to use this, who's using this, where this is being deployed? Have you seen any of these tools on the demos out here? Okay, so there are solutions out there. I guess, Barbara, in a minute or two, everybody's got like a digital strategy or talks about the fact they have a digital strategy or is trying to do some sort of strategy. Can you pick the one or two places, so interacting with customers, understanding how the technology comes together, are there stuff that you think is low-hanging fruit that they should be going after first in these types of discussions?
For a lot of people, that's going to be the use case instructions. But for other people, it'll actually be connecting up the IoT because the value is huge. What we do have, though, coming out right now, it's just in the consumer side, but you can start trying it out, is Vueforia's Chalk. So Vueforia is part of PTC. This Chalk app allows real-time, it's basically a real-time augmented reality video call. So you want to have your central expert talk to a remote service person and say, this is how to do this procedure. You can do this with no content creation whatsoever. Like I said, right now it's free to use, it's consumer, but you can try it out as your innovation group, and then it'll be coming to the enterprise grade soon. That's at active work. And starting in augmented reality just with this it'll start telling you where you need to build your augmented reality experiences.
So Chalk, C-H-A-L-K, you can download it from the App Store. It's on iOS right now. And it's pretty cool because when Barbara and I are talking and I hold mine up in my camera, she draws on her screen and it circles what I see, but it pins it to that. So if I move the phone and I want to see this particular item, that circle doesn't wander around the room. It actually stays on top of if I drew it around a button or whatever. We're actually doing a lot of work with the PTC engineering team. We announced a partnership a few months ago, and we'll have that available on the device. It'll ship with the device basically, but it's to start fast and do that kind of see what I see over the shoulder thing. It's one of the tools that might create a lot of value. But the point you made, which is the industrial Internet of Things, connecting to the thing data, figuring out the industrial Internet of people and connecting to the people data, if you can figure those out and then you figure out how to marry them, then you got some real magic there. So,
and we'll help you through that.
Excellent. So let's thank Barbara again. Great presentation.